Heartland Highways is made possible in part by
Consolidated Communications offers customers high-speed internet, digital phone service, and digital TV service packages that include high-definition channels, DVR, and hundreds of sports, movies, and music channels. More information on these services is available at consolidated.com.
Coming up on Heartland Highways, we visit Cinema Gallery in downtown Urbana, Illinois, where many Central Illinois artists display their work. Also in Charleston, we'll visit Red Rock Tileworks, where decorative and beautiful tile is crafted by hand for customers around the country.
Then we'll meet one of the artists whose work is displayed at Cinema Gallery, ceramic artist and craftsman Dwain Naragon of Charleston, Illinois. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Today we're headed to Urbana, Illinois, where a large part of the downtown used to look more like a ghost town.
But thanks to people like Carolyn and Norman Baxley, many of those empty storefronts are now filled with restaurants and shops. Rather than building new, many of those businesses are housed in historic buildings through adaptive reuse.
We believe very strongly in preserving our built environment and preserving our historic resources. And as buildings became available, like this one and 115 West Main across the street, we were able to acquire them and turn them into productive, adaptive reuse spaces.
When the Baxleys heard on the local news that Urbana's movie theater was closing, they jumped at the chance and purchased it the next week. The building, one of the oldest in Urbana, was constructed in 1870 as Busey's Hall. Used as an opera house and then a movie theater from 1915 to 1995, the building underwent a number of revisions over the years. Its name, the Princess Theater, still remains in tile as you enter the building.
The marquee out front was put on in the mid-30s when the Art Moderne facade was also put on. The facade of this building used to look like the one at the end of the block, which is an Italianate design with rounded windows. But they wanted to modernize it, so they put this lovely Art Moderne facade, which is in really good condition. And then the ticket area and the street level was done in the 60s, the red and black look of the theater. But it has multiple years visible on the exterior, but it all works together.
While no longer showing movies, the theater is still a place that showcases art and culture, but in a new way.
I'd wanted to do an art gallery for years. I love art. We have a modest collection of local artists' work, and I thought that it was really a shame that there was nowhere that you could go and see a cross-section of the best work in this area. I represent a wide range of media, all the way from ceramics to studio furniture. We have glass, we have painting, prints, almost any type of art. When we first started the gallery, I just chose a core of artists whose work I owned, and among those are very established artists, some retired, like Frank Gallo, who's a sculptor and really pioneered the cast paper editions that he's famous for. And Dennis Rowan was head of printmaking at the U of I for 30 years. Dennis is in the gallery. And I have Dave Bushman, who unfortunately passed away this past week, and we'll all miss Dave. His fabulous watercolor gouache paintings are in the gallery. And Don Lake, who's one of the, Don Lake and Glenn Bradshaw, who are two of the best known watercolor artists in the country. So I have a lot of younger artists too who are emerging in the field, but those are fewer than the more established retired and current faculty artists.
Today, Cinema Gallery represents over 50 artists, each with a connection to Illinois. Faculty artists from Eastern Illinois University, Parkland College, and the University of Illinois have their work displayed here. We even spotted a few artists who've been featured on Heartland highways, including metal artists Mark and Mindy Gardner and stone sculptor Todd Fromm.
People ask me all the time if I have work in the gallery, and I do not. The only background I have in art is I used to be a still photographer. I did that for a living for a while. But I just love art, and I knew, as I said, a lot of the artists who are in the gallery, and I'm more of an appreciator than I am an expert on art. Many times my customers know far more about the pieces they're looking at than I do, but I started with just a simple love of the work and the need, I thought, to have a place like this in Champaign-Urbana.
Customers who come to Cinema Gallery can feel at home, whether they know a little or a lot about art.
My favorite kind of customers are actually the ones who think they don't know anything about art. And I often find that a lot of customers have an intuitive sense about which pieces they really like and would like to own. People know a lot more about art than they think they do.
Cinema Gallery is just one of a growing number of art galleries in the community, thanks in part to Urbana's Gallery Incentive Program.
We felt that arts and culture might be a really good direction for downtown Urbana to take, and when that type of business develops, tourists come in from other communities, and we have enough restaurants around to also serve as a destination. So together, at this moment, we have 7 retailers on the 100 block of Main Street. So we are becoming a destination, and we hope to expand on that.
Cinema Gallery showcases individual and group shows in their main gallery every 4 to 6 weeks. So when you stop in, there's always new work to see. One other thing to check out when you head to downtown Urbana is their alleys. Part of the original planning of the downtown, these historic alleys are now designated by iron metalwork, displaying the name of each alley. You'll find Cinema Gallery right next to Crane Alley.
From decorative art to functional art, we traveled from Urbana back home to Charleston. Located on the north edge of town is a business that not a lot of local people know about. Behind the doors at Red Rock Tileworks, artistic and handcrafted tile is being created to add beauty and function to homes around the country.
With our tile, you're going to see handmade characteristics. There's going to be variation. No two are ever exactly alike, and that's really what I think contributes to the beauty of the product. It's not something that's mass-produced in China or Italy, and everyone is exactly the same. Like, they have all the individual touches of everybody who works on them.
Having worked with tile in their careers as architects, Howard and Susan Meacham came upon the opportunity to purchase their own tile company in Arizona. Their daughter Lindsay had finished a degree in ceramics and anthropology. She was living in Colorado with her husband Joe.
We called her and said, "Lindsay, we're going to look at a tile company that's for sale in northern Arizona. Can you come over and look at it with us?" So she did, and then we decided to purchase that company. And with Lindsay's background in ceramics, that was very helpful because she had a lot of technical knowledge and expertise that Susan and I did not.
When they decided to expand their tile business to incorporate a new line and production methods, the Meachams and McLeans opened up another facility in Charleston, Illinois called Red Rock Tileworks. Today, this foursome works together, with each individual bringing their own talents to the operation.
All 4 of us actually, have a creative side and a practical side. So, we discuss numbers and business and what, is feasible and, set goals and things like that. But everybody definitely brings something to the table.
At the Charleston facility, 2 different lines are produced under the names of Red Rock and ME Tile. Both products are considered decorative artistic wall tiles used in kitchens and bathrooms. But unlike larger automated tile factories, the work produced here is all hands-on and very labor-intensive.
It starts with mixing, of course, the clay. We make all of our dyes. We have three different ways of making tile. One would be pressing the tile, where the clay is put into a plaster mold and it's pressed and the tile squishes out and it has the design, and then they're hand finished. The second would be slip cast, where it's actually a liquid clay that's poured into a plaster mold that dries. Those type of tiles we use for really specific designs, like a rooster or mural designs, things that we are not going to be selling a lot of because you can only produce one tile a day, versus with the pressing you can do hundreds and hundreds. And then the last way is extruding, and that is basically kind of like a big Play-Doh machine or spaghetti pasta maker, and it extrudes out moldings, and that's what people use for like base moldings and crown moldings, that type of designs.
Once the tiles are dry, each is individually inspected and small imperfections are removed by hand. Those that don't make the cut are discarded and the clay is recycled. The tiles are fired for a first time, and then after cooling, glaze is applied by hand to an exact thickness, and then they're fired again. The glaze mixing and application process can be the most challenging aspect. Because of the handwork involved, slight color variations can occur, which adds to each tile's unique beauty.
It makes it look handmade when you have a variety of shades. It's not all exactly one color. I've come to appreciate that, and we do try to educate the people selling our tile as well. We don't want anybody to be surprised, but there's a lot of variation in the glaze, but it can make it absolutely beautiful.
The many colors of tile are enhanced by the range of designs, from contemporary to traditional.
It starts with either a carving in plaster or in clay, and then we make a mold of that. Sometimes we'll usually slip cast several prototype tiles to kind of see how they lay out. Do they all line up together? Do they look good as an installation? And then we'll collectively, as a family, look at the pieces and see, is this something that we think that other people are going to enjoy? After that, once we decide on the final tile, we pour rubber into the piece and make a master. That way, no matter what, we have this piece that you can't tear, you can't rip, you can't break, and we'll make more molds off of that.
While most designs are carefully crafted, some of them can happen by accident.
In that collection, I had spent, weeks carving, because they're very precise, very intricate designs. And the snakeskin was an afterthought. I had an extra room on the board, and there was, I think I did that one maybe in like a half hour, and it's our most popular piece.
Yeah, it's really,
so it's
really cool.
Yeah, it's just funny how you don't, something that's so effortless can be so successful.
Designs are put into collections that include the primary wall tile, moldings, arches, and other accent pieces. While most of the designs are created by the owners, their artist series features the work of Dwain Naragon. Dwain is a professor of ceramics at Eastern Illinois University.
He has a very unique technique for designing and making tile, and he usually makes little tools that he uses to press or pull across the clay to make a design. And it's very unique, and we had a very favorable response at the covering show in Orlando when we displayed Dwain's designs.
The tiles made here in Charleston, as well as those made in Arizona, are sold directly through tile showrooms throughout the U.S. and Canada. Together, this family, their employees, and we can't forget their dogs, Roxy and Ellie, are proudly crafting an American-made product. For Mom, Dad, daughter, and son-in-law, this business partnership has been an unexpected surprise.
Our fields weren't the same before, and she moved out west after she graduated, so we didn't know where her career was going to lead, but it's been great. We've really enjoyed it. I think it's been a learning experience for all of us.
And I think people too like the idea that we're a family business, that we're not part of a big corporation when they call here, they're going to talk to a family member, somebody who has a vested interest in the business and really cares.
After seeing the work of Dwain Naragon at Red Rock and Cinema Gallery, we thought we should meet the artist in person. We sat down with Dwain at his home in rural Charleston, then headed to his workspace and classroom at Eastern Illinois University, which, by the way, just happens to be across the street from our office. Working in clay most of his career, Dwain is both a ceramic artist and professor, but his artistic interests also include drawing, woodworking, and furniture design.
Yeah, when I was a freshman in high school, I think about 13 years old or something like that, was the first time I actually did any wheel throwing and actually did any kind of art at all. So I started drawing at that point too, and so it just kind of carried over, over the years. And then when I started college in '69, that's when I really started getting into it. And it's hard to believe it's been, all these years. It's pretty incredible.
With a career that includes teaching in Alaska and 2 successful production studios in Kansas City and Seattle, Dwain Naragon now makes his home with his wife in Charleston, Illinois. He serves as the sole ceramics professor at Eastern Illinois University, a job he's had since 1995.
That's one of the great things about teaching, is that sometimes people will approach it from a different standpoint. They'll approach it from the standpoint that they don't know any better, and so they'll try a lot of different things that you wouldn't necessarily try. And yeah, they come up with some really pretty interesting things. And it has influenced my work to a certain extent.
When he's not teaching clay, Dwain is working with it, selling his production and one-of-a-kind pieces at galleries in Illinois and around the country. After his many years of experience, Dwain can throw and shape pieces with ease. Even though he makes it look effortless, there is a great deal of concentration and steady handwork involved.
I never measure anything. It's all pretty much by eyeball anymore, and so there's something gratifying about, sitting and throwing for a while and then being able to look at a table of work and all the pieces look pretty much the same. And I don't know, it's interesting how your body really just kind of takes over after a while, and you really don't have to think about it that much. A lot of people would say, yeah, sure, but it really does happen after a while, and so I like that part of it too.
When working on large pieces like this one, they're actually constructed in a number of steps and pieces. Getting the lid to set just right on a jar takes a trained eye to remove just the right amount of clay.
Because most people don't really realize how many processes there are involved in clay and how many places along the way that things can go wrong, really wrong. And so just kind of getting some pieces through sometimes is a real success in itself.
While Dwain says he enjoys the throwing and shaping part of the process, his real love comes in putting patterns and textures on the surface, something that sets his work apart from others.
I've had a lot of interest in historical ceramics, and much of that is very kind of pattern oriented. And I always enjoyed the carving process. In fact, the way I got started carving on stoneware was kind of the interest I had in printmaking. I was doing a lot of linoleum cuts, and so one day I thought, the surface of clay when it's leather hard, where it's still moist but it's starting to stiffen up, feels a lot like linoleum. So I thought, well, I'll try a linoleum gouge, and it worked great. So it carved in a very similar way. And so then I started devising patterns to go with that, and then I came up with a system where I could divide up a banding wheel, and then I could center a form on it, and that division of the banding wheel would give me an ability to put a grid on the surface. So then I could really carry those patterns throughout the whole surface of the piece.
In addition to carving, Dwain also does a lot of stamping. He has a collection of tools and everyday objects that, when used in certain ways, create unique textures and patterns.
I either do very geometric kind of carving, or I do somewhat organic kind of carving that are smoother, kind of rounder kind of forms. And then I usually carve all my pieces when they're bone dry. So when they're bone dry, they feel just like plaster, and the texture is about the same.
When it comes to applying the glaze to the work, Dwain will painstakingly drop small amounts of glaze color to the raised portions and then add another color to the recessed parts, which give the piece even more depth.
Just the interaction of glazes, what they do, when they bump up against each other on the surface, they sometimes create kind of a halo that you wouldn't necessarily expect to happen. And so that's kind of a nice change that can kind of happen.
In addition to production pieces, Dwain also creates one-of-a-kinds. These are usually made in a series and will be some variation on a particular shape.
I like doing a lot of classical kind of forms, and that's really not in these days, but I've never really been one to kind of go with the crowd anyway, so.
Not limited by the medium of clay, Dwain is also designing and constructing furniture. He prides himself in using recycled or used wood, much of it coming from his own property. He even takes the leftover pieces and creates beautiful cutting boards which are almost too nice to use.
It kind of gives me a chance to get started on something new and something that's, I don't know how you'd say it, something not more exciting, but in addition to, what I already do. And I'm also going to be doing a lot of clay inlay into some of the furniture that I'm going to do. So inlaying tiles, inlaying, specific kinds of objects of clay into the surface. So there's so much to try, and there's so many different kinds of medium to work at. Some people say I'm a workaholic, but I don't, it depends on your definition of workaholic. But I like doing a lot of different things.
Your adventure could end up right here on Heartland Highways. If you know a person we should meet or a place we should see in Illinois, Indiana, or Missouri, tell us about it. Email us at heartlandhighways@weiu.net. Call us at the number on your screen, or write us a letter at 600 Lincoln Avenue, Charleston, Illinois, 61920. We'd love to hear from you.
Kate, Dwain certainly does some beautiful work, doesn't he?
He sure does. He's even inspired me to maybe try pottery for myself.
Sounds like a plan. We'll see you next time.
Heartland Highways is made possible in part by Consolidated Communications offers customers high-speed internet, digital phone service, and digital TV service packages that include high-definition channels, DVR, and hundreds of sports, movies, and music channels. More information on these services is available at consolidated.com.
Well, Lori, now I'm inspired to try pottery myself.
So am I, and after seeing Dwain's beautiful gardens that he has at his home, I can't wait to get my hands dirty.
Sounds good. Let's go.
Kate, sorry.
Yes, Lori?
Told you all this was going to be painful.
For now.